Because he put the most vicious ad on television that I've ever seen. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where I'm standing over the graves of our fallen warriors, our fallen heroes. These are great people, the greatest people there are. And I'm standing over there, and they have some sleazebag reporter from a third-rate magazine having some source quoting me, saying, I won't even use the term, but saying bad things. And there's nobody that loves our military, respects it, and the people more than me. And they took, and I didn't even ask, we had 25 people that were witnesses that are on the record already that have said that never took place. It never took place, what they said. And yet, pathetic Joe, and he's a pathetic human being to allow that to happen.
25 people on the record saying the Atlantic story didn't take place. And yet, we still have to hear that the president hates the military. That was never a credible story. The president has disdain for the military. Let me say something about guys like Trump, because he's a New Yorker like me, and there's a certain no BS, a little sarcastic, aggressive mentality and personality that New Yorkers tend to have, right? So producer Mark has a little bit of it. I've got a little bit of it. You know, there's just we got a way of being here. And Trump definitely has. Trump's from Queens. He's a Queens boy. I'm a Manhattan boy. Trump is a Queens boy, actually. Producer Mark, you're a Queens boy, aren't you?
I am a Queens boy.
There we go. Exactly. You know, Queens guys like love family, good food, and you don't want to push them too far. You don't want to push them too far. It's a bad place to go. And you don't want to try to rip them off either. They don't like anyone playing games. You know, Manhattan is a little similar, except we spend a little more time out at the country club. Same idea, though. Same basic mentality. And here's the thing. There's no way that Trump, if there's any group of people in the world that the president of the United States, while he's president and before he's president, clearly respects, it's our combat veterans. It's our airmen, soldiers. It's our Navy, Marines, Air Force, Army. All right. And so that's why the story, but they're so desperate to come up with some way to siphon off that strong veteran support for Trump, but they're just going with this. They're just going with this. Yeah, so the president said that his generals are a bunch of wimps. Generals are allowed to be criticized, okay? And generals are no longer on the front lines. They're not in combat. He has some harsh words for his generals. Guess what? He's allowed to. But he respects the men and women who put on the uniform, who serve their country every day, who do it for very little pay, at a lot of personal cost, and at risk of their lives because they love this country, because they're patriots. This president respects those people. There's absolutely no reason to believe otherwise. Okay, yeah, there are people that use their service or someone else's service as a weapon to attack the president politically, and he's going to respond. This guy is the Democrat line really that he hates the military, and the military is just not smart enough to figure it out? The people in the military who support Trump, they just don't realize. Usually, you don't like people that disdain you and think that you're losers, right? So who really has disdain for the military? The news media, the press. They do. They always have had it. You know how many journos there are running around? You're like, oh my gosh, yeah, the military. I don't know if that's for me. Or any kind of service to their country. Tons of them. Who writes stories? Who's the first people that want to tell everybody about how there was a civilian casualty incident with the military? You know, who ran wild with his front page Abu Ghraib stories every day, just defame the entire military because there were some people who were doing bad things? The journalists. So I just think it's interesting that they really are doing what the psychologists would call projection here. Trump doesn't hate the military, but if there's anybody that doesn't have due respect for the military, it's not all journalists, and there are journalists who are former military, and I know that. But a lot of lib media people really think that the military is a bunch of, unsophisticated, undereducated. They really do have that attitude about it, and I think it's so clear they're trying to push this onto Trump, and it's all just nonsense. What are we seeing with these fires out in California? They often talk about Trump as a as a fascist. I'll give you an example of what a fascist demagogue actually sounds like. And here's a hint. Not Trump, but out on the West Coast, there is someone who I do believe also has presidential aspirations, who may not really think of himself as a fascist, but certainly does a good impression of an enviro-fascist when given the opportunity. Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.